Is there a break to the auto workers' union strike? California may have just legalized prostitution. And will Sidney Powell's testimony spell doom for Trump? Trump's not afraid because, as his Truth Social posts show, he can't spell. That and more on this week's headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Bobby, the Guinness World Record holder for oldest dog ever, died at 31 years old. While that's impressive, it's worth noting that Bobby was only the world's oldest dog so far. Because my dog is going to live way longer since he's never allowed to die. You hear that, pancakes? I forbid you to leave me. Speaking of dogs, cases of the parasitic disease leishmaniasis have been reported in the U.S. The disease is incredibly rare in the United States, and most U.S. doctors have never seen a case of it. Leishmaniasis is spread by sandflies, which are smaller than mosquitoes and can even slip through holes in window screens. They're even smaller than the chance that this Taylor Swift-Travis Kelce romance doesn't end with her writing a banger song about him after they break up within the next 6 months. There are two main types of leishmaniasis: cutaneous, which attacks the skin and leaves sores, and visceral, which can attack the organs and be deadly. And if you're wondering what this has to do with dogs, this disease may also be spreading via infected dogs that are being brought into the U.S. The director of the Center for Emerging Infectious Diseases at the University of Iowa says that these dogs can even spread this disease to their puppies during pregnancy. On the bright side, this is good news for smug cat owners. They're going to point to this for years and say that their beloved cat would never kill their owner accidentally. Yeah, because cats kill you on purpose. Employment networking site LinkedIn announced it's cutting 668 jobs as it restructures its business model. This is after already cutting 716 jobs back in May, bringing the total to nearly 1,400. The greatest irony is if these former employees have to use LinkedIn to look for a new job. Coincidentally, LinkedIn is also testing out using AI to answer questions from users and cut wait times. Not related to the job cuts at all. Speaking of people not working, 6,800 United Auto Worker employees went on strike at Stellantis' largest assembly plant located in Detroit. The union says that they did this after receiving an insulting proposal from Stellantis to end the strikes. And another 5,000 UAW workers went on strike at a major General Motors SUV plant in Texas. There are now 46,000 auto workers on strike total, and these latest walkouts have shut down operations at these plants. Man, I haven't seen a plant killed so fast since the last time I thought I could take care of a fern. How was I supposed to know there was a difference between direct and indirect light? Rest in peace, Leif Cassidy. June 2023 to also June 2023. Stellantis is upset by this strike because they feel their offer to increase wages, job security, and retirement benefits was fair. But they say they received no response from the UAW. In a statement, Stellantis says, "Our very strong offer would address member demands and provide immediate financial gains for our employees. Instead, the UAW has decided to cause further harm to the entire automotive industry, as well as our local, state, and national economies." UAW President Shawn Fain explains this is because we've got cards left to play and they've got money left to spend. And I'm all for workers getting paid what they're worth, especially when GM just posted a quarterly profit of more than $3 billion, even amid the strikes. But maybe don't talk about getting it like a gambling addict talks about how, even though they're ahead, they should go all in on this next hand because they got a good feeling about this. And again, it might have paid off because Ford and the UAW have reached a tentative deal that could end the strike against one of the major automakers. So the moral of the story is gambling pays off. You didn't lose your kid's college tuition, you just lost it for now. Chevron is set to buy Hess for $53 billion. This is the second major oil company merger in 2 weeks as ExxonMobil purchased Pioneer Natural Resources for $59.5 billion. These mergers have many groups worried for many different reasons. Environmentalists are worried because Chevron and ExxonMobil feeling comfortable making such heavy investment means that fossil fuels will likely be around and profitable for a long time to come. Average citizens are worried because with competition being stifled and oil monopolies forming, this could potentially cause gas prices to shoot up and stay up with little recourse. And most importantly of all, I'm worried about what this means for the Hess truck. Does this mean the Hess truck won't be back and better this year for Christmas? Truly the darkest timeline. And another profession that's booming is the world's oldest profession, thanks to California. Last year, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed the Safer Streets for All Act, which decriminalizes loitering while intending to work as a prostitute. Newsom explained at the time, to be clear, this bill does not legalize prostitution, it simply revokes provisions of the law that have led to disproportionate harassment of women. And like with most California laws passed with good intentions, it was a resounding success with no unintended side effects whatsoever. What's that, Shelley? Oh, it turns out this law has led to a brazen sex market in Los Angeles, where women sell themselves in broad daylight. It emboldened prostitutes and made them feel less afraid. So it's the opposite of Grand Theft Auto 3. If you know, you know. And shame on you for it. This is upsetting businesses as it's driving customers away. And sometimes they're driving away with a prostitute they picked up outside the business. National City, California Mayor Ron Morrison had this to say about the situation.
The police cannot literally go and talk to them because they don't have basically a right to talk to them because they're not doing anything wrong by loitering for prostitution, or even they're going out talking to someone at a car and sitting there and all they're wearing is less than a G-string.
Morrison even showed me pictures of alleged sex workers walking near Integrity Charter School where kids get dropped off.
In front of schools? Do we really want children to see women treat themselves like objects and demean themselves? You know, besides on TikTok. What's interesting here is that Newsom said prostitution isn't legal, but California is essentially acting like it is legal. Meanwhile, in Nevada, where prostitution actually is legal, they keep it in brothels for the most part, and it doesn't spill out near schools. Get your act together, California. When Las Vegas has the moral high ground, you know you've lost the plot. And in an update to the thrilling isn't the word, embarrassing? Yeah, that'll do. The embarrassing Speaker of the House drama, Republican Mike Johnson, who's a real person and not just something spat out by a generic politician name generator, was voted Speaker of the House with Republicans supporting him unanimously. So the House finally has a Speaker again and can resume work. Thank goodness. Because if this guy wasn't milquetoast enough to get enough votes, Republicans' next Speaker nominee would have been a slice of Wonder Bread. And even then there might have been some holdouts from senators that prefer their bread with the crusts cut off. And after the break, in a shocking turn of events, President Biden wants to spend even more money. Welcome back. The Biden administration is requesting $105 billion in supplemental funding to aid Ukraine, Israel, and the U.S.'s southern border, and to fight China's influence in the Indo-Pacific region. Though some Republican senators want to split the Israel aid from the Ukraine aid. Foreign policy is always tricky with several moving parts that have to be taken into consideration. And the best way to handle these issues is by throwing money at them. It seems like that's Biden's solution for everything. The faucet in the tub leaking? Plug it with money. Those jalapeno poppers giving you heartburn? Wash them down with a nice cold glass of cold hard cash. Republicans are investigating you and trying to prove you colluded with your son to make money from foreign businesses? Throw money at them. And then pray they don't ask where you got all that money. Speaking of people under investigation, Donald Trump. Former Trump lawyer Sidney Powell took a plea deal, pleading guilty in Georgia's racketeering election interference case and agreeing to testify against Trump and other defendants. So far, 4 of Trump's co-defendants have taken a deal, including Kenneth Chesebro, Scott Hall, and Jenna Ellis. All these plea deals have many calling this a grave legal threat to Trump. It's all over for Trump now. I know we've heard some version of that sentiment weekly for the past 7 years, but this time will be different because at least that's what left-leaning news outlets are saying. The Washington Post says Sidney Powell was Trump's biggest fighter. Now she's his biggest threat. The New York Times claims Powell's testimony could be a big threat to Trump. And the Puffington Host says Trump's for sure doomed this time. I know we've said that 347 times before, but we've got a good feeling about this one. And how's Trump reacting to this? Well, he's seemingly not scared at all, given that he told Republicans at a rally this.
So we have to be careful. You got to get out there and you got to watch those voters. You don't have to vote. Don't worry about voting. The voting, we got plenty of votes.
He said he's more worried about voter fraud than getting enough votes to become president, which I remind you may be the only way he could potentially pardon himself and get out of some of these legal woes he's in. I can't tell if that's confidence or insanity. Though to be fair, that would be a fitting name for a Trump biography. Trump has a way of running his mouth, and it's costing him. And I mean that literally. Trump was fined $10,000 by the judge in his New York civil fraud trial for violating a limited gag order, barring him from making targeted comments. Have they heard of Trump? Asking him to not make targeted comments is like asking an eagle not to soar, and a dolphin not to swim, and a cat to not be a complete menace. As for Powell, Trump's distancing himself from her, claiming she was never his attorney. Several media outlets are saying this is an outright lie from a desperate Trump, but there's possibly some validity to it. In a tweet from November 14, 2020, Trump named Powell, as well as Ellis and others, as part of his legal team to try and investigate the presidential election results. After the 2020 election, Powell infamously promised to release the Kraken, a truth bomb that would prove without a shadow of a doubt that the election was stolen from Trump. And, well, you can call that Kraken Godot because people just waited around for it and it never showed up. And yes, I just made a Waiting for Godot reference. I can reference things other than Pokemon, you know. Rudy Giuliani, who served as Trump's attorney, thought this Kraken business was insane and said, "I didn't think she was a member of our team even before that, effectively. But from the day she officially was not a member of our team. So she was kicked off the team faster than I'd drop a Metapod when going into a gym battle." I didn't say I don't make Pokemon references, just that's not the only reference I make. Giuliani made the statement saying Powell was definitely not on the team on November 23, 2020. So even if she was part of Trump's legal team, she lasted less than 10 days, which is actually 1 day less than Scaramucci. Why aren't we measuring units of time in Powell's? So while all these plea deals spell doom for Trump, left-leaning media certainly seem to think so. But this wouldn't be the first time they thought he was done for and nothing wound up sticking to old Teflon Don. My advice would be to wait and see. But that doesn't get ratings or clicks, so the media is sensationalizing everything as usual. Guess you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, that's not true. Since I'm teaching my old dog, he's never allowed to die. And if you want to see more stories about dogs and California laws gone awry, here's one that'll scratch both of those itches behind your ears. It's about how California says police dogs are racist. And if you want to make sure we can keep making episodes like this, click that orange button to support us on Patreon. All it takes is $1 an episode, and you can set a monthly limit. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.